Today's session is going to be about SAP Business One tips and tricks. I'm very, very happy to be presented today with my colleague and our client and another SAP expert, Cristina Ramirez. So with that being said, Cristina, do you want to share a few words about yourself and what do you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Cristina Ramirez. I am the SAP manager at Gaumard Scientific. We are a manufacturing business that makes medical simulators. These are advanced mannequins that are used in the education, both for hospitals and medical industry, to train the future professionals on various medical skills. I've been working with SAP Business One here at Gaumard since 2013, and we're probably one of the lucky companies that has a dedicated team on site to implement and train and be led by Pioneer to make some changes in how we do things here in the company. So that has been my involvement with SAP Business One.
Thank you, Cristina. My name is Oren. I'm the CEO of Pioneer B1. We are an SAP Gold partner implementing SAP Business One, and I'm very fortunate and lucky to lead a team of professionals who really enjoy servicing and solving business issues. So with that being said, I think we could start. We're going to be presenting today SAP Business One tips and tricks that are relevant to any clients. We're going to use version 9.3, basically one of the latest versions. And it's going to be relevant to either HANA or SQL and things of that nature. So with that being said, maybe Cristina could talk about the agenda.
Sure. So we actually divided up our presentation into various categories of tips. We'll go over some admin tips, some cross-functional that are applicable to different areas of Business One, and then we'll conclude with some financial tips. Also, as part of the agenda, we're going to be collecting any tips that come to mind while we're presenting. We'd like to find out what are your best tips and tricks that you may want to share with the rest of us, and we'll show you how to do that in the next slide. So there are two ways that you can contribute your tips or tricks that may come to mind throughout the session. One of them is by going through that website, and Oren, if you can be so kind to copy that link on the chat so that people can just click on it and go to that site. Or you can also use your phone, your mobile devices, and text to the number 22333, that title that you see on the screen, which is SAP B1 Tips 479. If you do that, you're going to be admitted to a classroom or a poll where you can just send a text message with your favorite tips and tricks. We actually did this at the SAP conference that was held last month, and we had a good turnout of various tips and tricks that the audience collected, and later we shared with the rest of the audience, so we'd like to do the same with you guys today.
Yep, and I did share it in the chat, so just feel free to click on that, open a browser, and we could start adding your tips as we go through the presentation. So this is how it looks, and so as you share tips and tricks, they're going to show up here. I see no tip as of now, but we're going to review that later. At the end, we're going to share our tips that we're going to deliver today, but also all the tips that all of the collective here are going to share.
All right, let's get started with our admin tips. The first one is the ability to disconnect, see everybody who's connected to Business One, and the ability to disconnect them or send them a message all from one window in Business One. I don't know if it's been your experience where you've had to perhaps work on Business One or the database or the server, and you've had to maybe call the users one by one that you saw were connected to try to get them disconnected. Well, actually in Business One, there's a tool called Connected Client under Administration and Utilities, where you can see everybody who's connected. You can send them a message like you see on the screen, and you can actually disconnect them all from the same form. And Oren's going to show us how to do that directly on Business One.
Yeah, so you can go through the menu, but I normally like to do the search menu here, so that could be a tip by itself, right? So if we look at connected clients, I'm just typing connected. That will open the window. We can see who are the connected clients, refresh, send them a message, disconnect them if we want to, refresh the database or whatever operation we want. We could do that here. Just if I'm talking about this function, maybe another thing to look at is the access log. Access log is also a great tool for administrators that would like to see who connected to the system, when and how, and things of that nature. As you go through a specific user, you can see, what was the last log on, last log off, when they connected, and so forth. You can also look at the details and the history if it exists. So if I go to the Jason Butler, the manager, the one that I have more information about, I can set up the dates from and to, and you can see basically when I logged into this system as manager and get more specific information.
We've actually used this tool to assess when an account is being used, because we've noticed that we have some users that maybe are not on the system all the time. So we've used this tool to assess how often are they logging in, or are they forgetting to log off in their PCs or their clients. So it's a good tool. All right, for our next tip, there is a way, I don't know if you knew this, but you can actually set up secure login to Business One so that your users can use their same Windows username and password to connect to SAP. So this is a great tool so that your users don't have to remember another username and yet another password. There is a way to connect the two. And there's a link on the presentation, which we'll also share, that has more information on how to set it up.
Excellent. So yeah, I think if you want to set it up, make sure you read the documentation, things of that nature, or reach out to your IT or to us. But basically, there are two very easy setup to do. If you go to your server, and let me open that again. The service manager is where you want to go, and from the license manager, if you open the settings, you could configure your security. Already have it open here. So B1 user, and just 1 second, let me copy paste my password. Just 1 second. I'm gonna paste here the password. You log in basically to your system landscape directory that shows all your databases, things of that nature. The security is really where you want to go. That will show you the single sign-on option here. So you can define that and have different configuration you could manage, like authentication, changing the password every X time, and some other security means. But that's basically the checkbox to make it happen. And the other thing you need to do is from the user setup. So if I go to my user area, there will be a bind with Microsoft Windows account, so that kind of tie the SAP user together with the Microsoft user account, so they can use only one single sign-on.
All right, for our next tip, there is a place called User Groups in Business One that lets you group your users or create groups for different types of activities like authorization, UI configuration settings, alerts. Essentially, you can select a number of users, assign them under a particular group, and apply changes in that user group across the board to the entire group, so you don't have to do those things individually. When we started using Business One for authorizations in particular, this tool wasn't available. So what we've been doing since it became available is we've created the different departments under a different authorization group, and now the onboarding of new users is much easier because we just assign them to an already existing user group, as opposed to before where you had to maybe copy the authorizations from one user to the other. So this has made it really simple to onboard new users because you can apply various settings by just assigning the user to the different groups.
Thank you, Cristina. And basically that screen user group is available for you. You can define many different user groups. Right now I have nothing on my database. I'm going to go and add a new one, call customer service, for example, and the description if I wish. And then I have the type. I can define, hey, for customer service, I want everything to be across the board. The authorization, the alerts, the form setting, and the UI configuration templates. So if I want everything, I would do cross all types. And then any new user related to the customer service from now on will have all those defaults. You could set up specific authorizations for the specific users on top of that, but by default, they will get all the relevant alerts and form settings and things of that nature. So that's very nice. As you do that, you will see a new group appears. I think I already have one, so I'm going to do CS2 maybe. And as I go to CS2 or as I go to group type across all topics, I will see the CS2 now available, and then I can define which users are going to be part of that group. Okay? Any questions so far? Feel free to ask in the chat, and we're going to open the lines at the end of the webinar. But if you have a question about anything that we show through the webinar, please feel free to type in the chat.
All right, this other feature in Business One has proven to be very useful for us. It's called the Bill of Materials Component Management. And what it allows you to do is to filter through different BOMs and apply changes across the board, whether it is to add, to delete, or to update an item from a specific search criteria that you perform. So on this window that you see on here is kind of divided into two halves. The top half is the filtering. It lets you select by item group, by the BOM item group, or the BOM type, or the warehouse, or different rules or criteria for filtering. And then on the second bottom half of the same form, it allows you to select whether you want to update or select an item for update, or which item you need to update the quantities, and so on and so forth. So it allows you to make changes to multiple BOMs with just a few clicks.
Awesome. And Cristina, before I get to that, we have a question on the chat about the previous window, if a single user could be part of two groups. So, for example, I have a group that Paul and Ari are associated with. I'm going to try to associate here Ari and try to update, and it does let me associate a user with two groups.
What I have found, though, is depending on the groups, like if it's the same type of group, one of them will take precedence over the other. But if it's different types of groups, then it's fine. I don't know if that makes sense. Since you have authorization, alerts, and the different categories, you can have a user belong to all those different types. But if you put a user to a same type of user group, I'm not sure that it lets you, and if it does, I think one of them takes precedence. So that's only for the same type of groups.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Cristina. So what you talked after that is the bill of material component management. Really nice tool. You have a new components or a new revision of components that you want to update across the board. You can do that from here. There are different options in this menu. Change BOM lines, add BOM lines, delete BOM lines, or change BOM headers. So you could do all of those. If I go, for example, to change BOM lines, and I want to change BOM lines, let's take one of the BOMs, for example. Maybe I'll take one of the examples I have here. P1, I believe was the one. Let's do P1. 0002. So that's the BOM, for example, and let's take one of the components, and let's say I want to have a quantity of 2 instead of 1. Okay, so basically on the change BOM, what I want to do is to select if I have relevant BOMs that I want to update. Maybe I want to update only specific item group. Or maybe I want to update for everything or specific warehouse, things of that nature, specific route and stuff like that. If I want just to replace the BOM components, I can say, hey, I want to replace maybe maybe in this case it will be C002. With a quantity of 2, for example. Okay, so the select BOM lines is going to be changing. No, I need to actually put it here. It's going to be, I'm going to select all lines that have C002 and maybe change them with maybe C001. And instead of quantity of 1, I'm going to do 2. Okay, and as you can see, there are a lot of other options to change the warehouse, to change the additional quantity, to change the price, all kinds of options that are available. I'm just demonstrating one kind of scenario. So if I do OK, I will see that there is one BOM that qualifies for that change. This is the existing component, C002. It's going to be replaced with C001. The quantity is going to go from 1 to 2, so it shows you all the changes before you make the change, and you can select and click OK, and that will do the change. So now when I go to the same BOM, if I do the refresh button here, now the C2 replaced with C1, and it has a quantity of 2. Any questions? I do see that we have one question. Could BOM must be updated in BOM components management with the parent items or on open sales orders? Could BOMs be updated in BOM components management with the parent items on open sales orders? No, that will update only the production order. If you have production, only bill of materials, it does not go to transaction. It does not update production orders or sales orders. It does that change only to the bill of material.
Right, so you would have to reload those items in the open transactions so that it takes the changes.
Right. If you have open transactions and you have massive amount of open transactions, of the same item that you need to replace, what we have done in the past is run a report to select which transactions are open with the selected criteria we are looking for, and then run DTW to update those transactions. And if you want to learn about DTW, that was the webinar we had last month, so it's available on our website.
There's another question about what is the problem of updating BOMs through the bill of materials directly. There is no problem. It's just that if you have the same change to make across many BOMs, it becomes, I guess, time consuming and repetitive. So this tool is really meant to help you change things in bulk when you have a lot of them.
Yep.
A lot of changes to make.
Exactly. All right, if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, but I see no other questions. We're going to move forward to the next tip.
All right. There is a tool within Business One that serves as a messenger to communicate between other users. Now, there are many options for sending messages out there. The benefit of using this live collaboration tool within Business One is that it can link through to actual documents directly in SAP. So rather than sending an email or using some other messaging system that you may have to communicate with your colleagues, if you use the live collaboration tool, you're able to link to sales documents, to any master data documents within Business One, in a quick message. And so it's useful because it saves you from typing specific things, and it allows the other user to directly link to the documents that you want them to take a look at.
So let's see how it looks. Basically, the setup is as you can see in the presentation, but once you enable the live collaboration, you're going to see two new icons on the top, live collaboration and send to conversation. So let me just log into my demo environment. I didn't recognize it. Okay. Not something that we're gonna be able to demo right now. I'm not sure. I think my system is disconnected, so I'll see if I can solve it and we can get back to that at the end. But never had something like that. It's normally pretty straightforward. You enable the live collaboration and you click here and you can send messages. I'm gonna try to see what's the issue and get back to that.
Okay, let's go to the next tip. There has been a few enhancements as far as attachments are concerned in the system, and one of them is the ability to type a specific note on the attachments called free text. Is an added column within all of the documents that have an attachment tab to it. You can basically classify or name some of your attachments to remind you later what they're for. When you have a lot of users, I don't know if this happens to any of you, but sometimes some users get really creative when they're uploading an attachment and the attachment doesn't, the name doesn't really tell you much. And when you have a lot of attachments, it might be useful without having to preview one by one what the document is before you get to it, before you display it. So there's a way to document that now using the free text. And so we actually recommend our users to, when they're uploading an attachment, to take some time and type in maybe a couple of words that will identify what that document is, to make everyone's life easier when they're viewing, especially some master data or some marketing document that has quite a number of attachments. That's one of them. And the other thing is you can also specify individual folders for your users so that when they upload any documents, they're uploaded to a specific folder under their name, and they're not just dumped into one general attachment folder that, where everything is uploaded to.
Thank you, Cristina. Coming back to those two examples, let's look at the live collaboration. We have now, as you open the live collaboration, you will see a list of items. You can see the flash thing here that shows me that I do have a conversation. Somebody send me a message. They can send me a message. This is how I see that message. In this case, somebody sent a message to 4 participants, which I can see who they are. To Harry, Hunter, Manager, and James. Please check the sales order. I click on the sales order and it opens that sales order basically. I could also, send a link to just one person, and I can say, hey, Ari, we really need this PO to be approved ASAP, and then and then I have typos, of course. But then I can say, hey, I want to attach a document. First, if I want to add other users, I can do that here. If I want to share data from the system, I just click on Share Data. I can go to the relevant area of the software. In this case, it was a PO that I'm looking for. It will open the list of PO, and I can search like by customer, by number, and things of that nature. So in this case, I'm going to choose that one, and that's how the system linked that. So I can do that related to customer order or to customer, specific customer, right? Then I can share additional data. I can say, you know, this is related to business partner, and this is related to Blue Sky, for example. And then I have the link to each one of those system records. I can send it and things of that nature. So that's one.
We have a quick question, Oren. Sorry about that. When the user receives a message, it doesn't show a pop-up. I think that's correct. What it does, and I think we forwarded this information to SAP. Right now, if you have the window closed down, you'll see a very small red dot next to that icon to let you know that you got a message. So obviously that anybody could miss that. The way that probably might work best is if you have the live collaboration tool open, because then it flashes. It doesn't do a pop-up, but it flashes a little, it flashes to let you know that you've got a message. We've obviously asked SAP to do a little bit more on that, either an audio reminder, like a bell or something that lets us know that we got something, or something a little bit more flashy like a pop-up, because we do recognize it's not, as
visible,
as convenient. Yeah, visible, I guess is the word. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It doesn't do a pop-up at the moment.
Thank you, Cristina. The second thing you shared earlier is about the attachment. So as we know, every document or majority of the objects in Business One have that attachment folder. You will see that you have that free text now, that you could add any of the documents and kind of specify what they mean. It's the artwork, it's the approval, and things of that nature, so you know what it means. In addition, if you want to have additional fields, it's not available through the UDFs, but it's available through the UDF of the DI API. So your partner could work with you to add additional UDFs that will be choose from list and things of that nature. So that's one thing. The other thing that Cristina was talking about is the user preference. So now there is my personal settings that allow you to define a lot of settings on your screen. What's going to happen, how soon the screen lock time is going to lock, and things of that nature. A lot of the things that are relevant for the specific user. How do they like their color, the skin, if they want any attachment. And also that attachment folder is part of that definition. The last thing I want to walk you through is if you ever change that path, there is a way to define the path, and this is the way in SAP to define the path. What I really like is that button, because when you refresh the path, it's going to be relevant for documents, from now moving forward, that it will save that in the new path. But if you need to update all the documents with the new path, because you copy them to the new path, this is a button that will refresh all the documents across the boards to look at the new path. So that's very handy, because in the past we had to do those updates using DTW or something else. Questions? All right, so we are going to the next one.
All right. So for our next tip, there is extended functionality from various fields within marketing documents by pressing Control Tab. on them, and on this slide you have a summary of what those fields are and what they display. So the idea behind it is that, if you press Control Tab in any one of these fields, like item number, description, quantity, warehouse, or price, an additional window comes up that lets you have a little bit more detail added or viewed when you're working a marketing document. And Oren will demo each one of those.
All right.
In SAP.
So we're gonna take a sales order document, for example, and let's see those Control Tab options here. So if I start entering a new sales order, and that new sales order, first Control Tab, I guess it's the name. If you want to change the name, for example, and my name is not part of the customers, for example, and I try to tab out of that field, it will not going to tell me, because it tells me I don't recognize it. So if you want to force it, you can always do Control Tab to move forward and to enforce the new name. As you select an item, for example, you could select, for example, a number 2. So let's start with Control Tab here. So if we do Control Tab on the item number, when I'm in the item number column, that will show me all the alternative items. So in Business One, you can define alternative items. For example, if that item is not in stock or not available, I can offer the client other types of products. And the way to define that is really simple. From the item master data, you could right click and do alternative items and define, if you have remarks and what's the match factor to your original item. So that's first Control Tab. The second one is the Control Tab on the item description. So if I do 222 and I want to just change the name, to force change the name, or sometimes you have specific measures, width, all kinds of metrics that you want your clients to see under the item description. That's a way to do that. If I click Tab, the system will say, hey, I don't recognize that item, but we can do Control Tab to force it. Next one is the quantity. If I do Control Tab, I am able in a sales order to assign a batch number or to commit a batch number or a serial number. So let me choose maybe another item with serializations. So if I choose, I believe this one is serial managed, and I go to the quantity, I see all my available serial numbers. They are all not allocated right now. So I can allocate a specific serial number to that sales order. So it doesn't have to be upon the delivery. You could do that on the sales order stage, and that will carry over to the delivery or the invoice. Another thing that Control Tab is very helpful is on the warehouse. Right now I see the in-stock committed ordered only for warehouse number 01. If I want to see for all warehouses, I'm going to do Control Tab. That's going to show me the inventory in all the physical locations. The physical location means the warehouses that are not defined as dropship. So I can see my availability in each one of those warehouses and kind of make a decision whether to ship it from one location or from another, or to do inventory transfers, things of that nature. And the last thing I'm going to review is the price column. The price column is really, really nice, because if I do Control Tab on the unit price area, I will see all the previous sales and prices for that specific client. So I can see all their history, and I can choose which documents I want to see. I can even see all, this item, how it has been sold to any other client. So I'm just going to uncheck that client, and I want to see all clients. So I can see the price difference and what I can offer that price, and to make a decision in real time, because I see other prices for other clients. Furthermore, I can see what was the purchase price. So if I select here a vendor and I do refresh, I can see what was the price of the purchasing, what was the last price. So maybe that will be the trigger to my decision. And again, if you, assuming the user have authorization to that information, because if you blocked the user from authorization perspective, they won't be able to see the vendor pricing. So it can be blocked, but also a nice feature to have. Any questions?
One of the things we used this control tab functionality for was for inventory transfer requests. We were trying to assign serial numbers to, or commit serial numbers to specific items that were being transferred. And on the transfer request, you don't really, from the context menu, if you right click, you don't have the option to get to the serial number window. If you Oh, I guess now it does. It didn't have it before. So either way, you can either do Control Tab or right click on the context menu and assign it. There was a point probably on the previous version that wasn't available. And so we were just using it with the Control Tab directly on the quantity. Good to know that they've added it.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Let's see what is coming next.
So the next few tips, they're small tips and tricks that enhance the user experience across the board. So, we have from menu searches, which Oren showed in the beginning of the presentation. We also have a way to manage multiple open windows, search in the query manager, use the tooltip preview, and I think there might be a couple more. Copy to them from Excel, and then using the user setup for your users. These are smaller things that really make a difference when you're with your experience in Business One, and Oren will show all of them kind of like one after the other.
I can try. I can definitely try. So maybe let's start, across the board. I'm showing how I do search of menus in data. So I'm going to go to the next thing. When you open different menus and look at different orders and drill down to the client, and then you may drill down to the item, and then, you look at different transactions. You want to close everything. The best way to do that is to do view,
Windows.
Where is sorry. Thank you, Cristina. So Windows close all. But really nice thing I like to have is sometimes you still want to look at the current window. So I can do close all but this. So that will leave just that item master data here, and everything in the background will be closed. So that's just nice to have, nice to know. The other thing that I really like in the 9.3 version is, as you are having few years of information and different queries and things of that nature, it's really, you have a lot of things here, and sometimes it's hard to navigate through the different categories. So a nice thing to do is now we have a query search. So as you go to the query manager, you could search by any of the the words that are in that describe the query. So for example, sales order by sales employees. Now I can just type sales, enter the sales employees, and get the results I wish. So just much easier to get to those queries. Another thing that I see missing with many, when I visit clients, is that they are unaware for that awesome tooltip preview. So instead of drilling down to the customer and see lots of information or the customer master data, you can now just preview the data, and it is definable. You can define what you see when you hover over that golden arrow. Same thing with the item. Same thing with the warehouse. So in many cases where you see that golden arrow, it can show you the information, so you don't have to drill down. Very, very easy setup. It's called the tooltip. So let me search for menus. So tooltip preview. Only thing you need to do is to enable it, and then it will be available for everybody. And then you can decide where exactly to enable. And then as you see, if I look at business partner, this is when I can define what is going to be presentable. So maybe I want to see the contact person, so I just need to check that here and update. And then next time I hover over the customer, I will see also the contact person, gems senders, the default one.
This is a feature that's per user. So each user would have to enable it to be able to see it.
Thank you for the clarification. Another thing that we shared in lots of previous tips and tricks sessions is the ability to copy paste from Excel. You know, almost any grid in SAP Business One allow you to copy from and to the Excel. So you can copy table, paste it to Excel. You could even, you know, let's have maybe, you know, some sales order with more items, so I could select, you know, additional items that will appear in the sales order. I can copy all of that, and then I can copy selected information from the Excel to Business One. So it could be the whole order if they're order in the same structure, or it could be specific like the quantity. So I copy paste from Excel into the quantity area. So copy table, open the Excel. Let me open Excel and bring it to the to here, and then maybe, you know, I have another Excel, I change quantities, whatever is the case, I just copy that column or copy the item number, go to SAP to the relevant column and just paste it in Excel. Any questions so far? Okay, the other thing that is maybe a quick tip is the ability to change the menu. So for example, you know, you don't like that it says AR invoice, you want your users to see customer invoice, you're able to do that very easily. It's under the document numbering. You know, this is where you define your different series of documents. And AR invoice, I want to say customer invoice. So from now on, once I update that, as I go to the main menu, instead of AR invoice, I will see customer invoice, but it will be the same thing. So that allows you to define your favorite terminology as you use the system. And the last thing, when you get you know, different messages, sometimes they appear here. Sometimes they, you know, disappear within a few seconds. If you still want to see them, or if you want to copy them and to send to your consultant, if you got error message and things of that nature, you are able to permanently make them visible by going to the Windows. You could do system messages log. That will open that messages log that could be minimized or reopen, or, you know, you could play with that basically, and that allow you to capture that information and copy and paste it, so you don't have to remember that or to type it. Also, you know, there are all kinds of messages. If you ever want to really understand, you know, what is that error message, is it recognized, somebody already looked at that, you can also search online, and that will do the Google search for you and will bring you different results from you know, either different SAP. This one wasn't a good example, but from SAP notes, different things that could really be a quick search. So it will add the SAP Business One, it will add your version automatically, and it will add the specific error message that you got. So just, again, easier to search, easier to find documentation. So if I go back to the presentation,
I think we have a few more tips to share. Yep.
Yep. So we shared that, and we went into the system message. we're going to go into document cancellation.
Okay, so there's a way to cancel documents in SAP, and depending on the type of document, you can cancel documents in batch, for example, for sales quotations and sales orders. The thing about canceling these documents is that it creates another document, a cancellation document, and Oren's going to show you, what the impact of that is and how you can identify them.
Yep, I definitely going to show that. I want to maybe just remind everybody that we are looking forward to see your tips in probably 5 to 7 minutes from now. So please, if anything from this remind you another tip, please log it, because it will benefit everyone. So sales order and sales quotations are documents that could be canceled with right click, and the only thing it will do is it will change the status. Okay. So I go back to the sales order, I have it closed or canceled, things of that nature. If I want to cancel other documents like, customer invoice, AR invoice, and maybe that invoice was based on a sales order, right? So I think this one is already closed. So let me take maybe a sales order and let's copy that to a delivery or to an invoice. Obviously, as I copy the whole document to an invoice, the invoice is generated, it's an official document, it created a journal entry behind the scene, and that sales order, if I refresh it, is now closed. The ability to cancel documents is basically right-click cancel. There is a definition of the time frame, how much time, 30 days or 60 days or more than that, to allow users to cancel, but you can from here cancel. What it will do is it will open another transaction called AR invoice cancellation. Exactly same details. You will not be able to change it because it has to match one-to-one and reverse the exact journal entry. So it's just, you're just going to be able to add that and add some remarks if you wish. So what happens is the result, you have two transactions. You have the original invoice, which is now canceled, the status is canceled. You have the cancellation document, which have a different document series, not 1082, but 823. That is the cancellation document, and you can see that here, and it closed that invoice. But what also happened is that sales orders that got closed is now going to be reopened, so you can re-invoice with the correct tax code or amount or whatever it was that was the mistake. In addition, the relationship map will always show you the different cancellation and what happened, and then the sales order will be copied to a new document. As you create queries, just make sure that you add to the query where canceled equals no, so you don't see. It depends if you want to see those cancellation information. One more thing that Karina always pushed me to talk about is the open item list. As we look at the open item list and we look at the sales quotation, there is the ability to filter, of course, but then to select a specific transaction and to say, hey, I want to cancel in bulk all those transactions. So that could be done through, doing that and going to the data area and to decide if I want to close or cancel. And that will cancel in batch all those transactions, whether it's a sales order quotation or sales order, any document that doesn't have journal entry behind it.
If you've ever had to cancel expired quotes one by one, you will love this. If you've never had to, then it doesn't make a big impact.
All right, so we talked about that. The next one is activity recipient. Maybe you just talk about it.
Maybe we can just, maybe we can just briefly mention it. For those of you that use the activities module, there is in 9.3 an option to assign an activity to a group of users as opposed to just, used to be just a one user at a time. Now you can create your own recipient list. Essentially, it's a group of users that you can attach under a name and assign the activity to that group, and then everybody gets notified of that activity when it's assigned to them. So it's just the ability to assign an activity to a group as opposed to just an individual person.
Next tip is the financial templates.
Yeah, so there is a way for you to build financial reports without making changes to your chart of accounts, so that you can preview the reports, and customize them based on your audience. And Oren will show us exactly how to do that.
Yeah, thank you. So there is a financial reports template that allow you to, instead of restructuring your chart of account, allow you to see the reports in different ways. Each one of the financial reports. So for example, if I want to create a new template to profit and loss, I can call it Pioneer Webinar or bank statement or whatever it is. I can generate the standard chart of accounts, so I have kind of a base. I think that's what really recommended. And then I can start adding some stuff like subtotals, like maybe adding some child components. For example, in 9.3, something that is, they added additional drawers, so that comes automatically into the financial report. So if you want to delete them, that will be a way to delete those tables, and then I can update. Now, next time I'm going to run my P&L. Let's look at that in the window. Profit and loss statement. If I run it by, let's do this from the beginning of the year until today. If I run it based on my chart of account, I will see drawers 9 and 10 that are there by default. If I don't want to see them, I can choose my Pioneer Webinar template, and that's available in other financial reports, the template that I just created basically, and that will show my profit and loss without those two additional drawers. And while I'm here, maybe I'll show the next tip. If you're in the chart of account and you want to give somebody access to all chart of account, modification, things of that nature, but maybe there are some sensitive information, maybe equity information, things of that nature that you want to restrict, there is an authorization for that. You can make, the retained earnings, for example, confidential, so nobody will be able to see, those specific accounts, even if they have authorization through the chart of account. So that was basically the next tip. I think one before the last one is the period statuses, and it's coming, year-end coming, so it's useful.
Very relevant. Yeah, there's a way for you to control which transactions can be posted within a date range of a given posting period. You can see there on this chart, it's a summarized description of all the available period status and the documents that can be posted or transacted with each of those status selected. So if you want to preview quickly, it's very relevant at the end of the year because most people forget to create new periods. And
right, and our dear Lauren Figurelli created a document that will walk you through that. We're going to release it today. It's going to be as a blog also on our website, so everybody knows what to know before the end of the year. Basically, to create a new period, you also probably want to log into your posting period and extend the due date so the system doesn't give you an error message. Maybe if you have documents that you're posting in December and their due date is going to be, in January to be paid, so you may want to do that, 1/31/2020 to extend just the due date. I don't recommend to touch anything else. And then the last tip that we wanted to share, because we know some clients are confused with the different tax options. So we wanted just briefly to talk about the three options for taxes. So there is the traditional tax code. You define your tax codes, jurisdictions. That's out of the box. There is also relatively new service offered for with no charge for SAP Business One clients called Tax as a Service. That actually, based on the client ship to things of that nature, will calculate the tax for you. It goes to the SAP Tax as a Service hub, takes the relevant information, create the tax code in real time, and get you that information. What those solutions doesn't do, what those solutions don't do, they don't, file the taxes for you. They don't manage the certification and things of that nature. So if you need a very, very robust management of taxes, that would be a third-party add-on.
Or I guess you can use a combination of those. If you wanted to use tax as a service and then use a different service or a different vendor to prepare those tax documents for you, you can do that too.
So this is, for example, a client that, in real time, it created a tax code. If I drill down into the tax code, and that's option number 2, the tax as a service, you could see that all the jurisdictions are updated, and it works beautiful. It works very well. It works fast without any delay, and it's phenomenal. I really like that, and happy to share it with everyone here. So I believe we have only a couple of minutes until the time is running out. So let's kind of summarize. First, I see that we have only 3 tips. Control Shift F10 to open content menu. Oh, that's good to know. Developing for SAP 10.0 can set event authorization on attachment tab. Oh, thank you. And those are our tips. Please feel free to add additional tips, and we're going to share them with the final presentation at the end of the day. This webinar is going to be shared on our website probably within a week or so. And let's just maybe summarize. So let me move that to the next slide. Cristina, it doesn't want to move. Okay, there you go. And I want to share some references before we leave. So the references are additional education and additional tips and tweaks so you could make your experience better. One of them is the help portal. None of those, by the way, requires S-user. I know sometimes we have the learning hub of SAP and it requires S-user. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging. So all of those links do not require any SAPS number. The SAP Help Portal for 9.3, LinkedIn Tips and Tricks group where we share information and new tips and tricks and stuff like that. So feel free to join that group. Ari Shapira, the product owner of SAP, release every week tip of the week. So I would highly recommend to follow him on this one. And if you want free queries, this is a portal which I found that have a lot of out-of-the-box queries. You could just copy and paste it to your environment. So I thought I may want to share that. So with that being said, if there are any questions, we are happy to answer. If not, we're also happy to answer. But with that being said, I don't see any questions so far. So thank you everybody for joining. We're here for you. Feel free to contact us if you have any additional questions, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Cristina, for presenting with me. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Anytime. A pleasure for me too.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Friday and have a great weekend.
Bye-bye now.